All right, Matthew, good to see you, man. Glad you could join us on the podcast today.
Good to be here, Ryan.
Look, on honest confession time here for me. When your book came out, I'm like, nah, I saw it in the airport. I think that was the first time I saw it. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to read that book. Nah, I'm not going to read that book. And then I saw other people had you on their podcast and I heard interviews you did. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to read that book. And finally, enough people said, you really ought to read the book. And I started listening a little bit more to your podcast. I read the book. I'm like, damn, I should have read the book earlier because it was amazing, man. I actually listened to it and your narration and everything was it was incredible. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Now fun question.
Yeah.
How you look at that and go, man, I'm not reading that book? Because I know that a lot of people weren't going to read that book because I wrote that book.
I don't think it was because you wrote the book. I had made some assumptions about you and I think Hollywood in general, like what's this guy going to teach me that I already haven't figured out on my own, or I'm not in the midst of learning for myself.
Heard. I figured, I remember telling one of the my publishers before I headed off to the desert to go write, I said, look, a lot of people are going to buy this book because I wrote it, even if what's on the pages is crap. I go, a lot of people are not going to buy this book, no matter how good it is on the pages, because I wrote it. I go, I remember writing this down on day 4 writing. I was like, look, may the words on these pages be worthy of sharing if they're signed by anonymous, and at the same time be words that only I could have written. So that was sort of my North Star because I understood I had a platform being who I am as a celebrity that some people are going to go, man, I dig McConaughey, I'll read it. I understood also my platform as celebrity. Some people go, hey, no way I'm reading that book.
Right.
So, cool.
Well, I think one of the things that you talked about in the book that really resonated with me, I think it was towards the end when you were talking about you redefining yourself, specifically your career from this rom-com guy to, hey, I got to stop doing that altogether and redefine myself. Because I think a lot of people just naturally think, well, that's McConaughey. He's the rom-com guy. He's the good looking guy. He gets the chicks. And there's not much more depth to him than that.
Right. Well, that's what was, the success of those rom-coms, and parlayed with the fact that the paparazzi were taking pictures of me running shirtless on the beach every day out front of those houses that those rom-coms paid for.
Yeah,
the success of those made the industry and the public go, well, McConaughey's the rom-com guy. I mean, that's it. So when I wanted to go do dramas, the studios and everyone else were like, no way, dude, stay in your lane. And I was like, it's a good lane. I enjoy this lane, but it was a time where my life was getting so vital. I talk about it in the book. I had a child. You got children?
Right. I've got 4.
4. So, man, after your first child, man's never more courageous and masculine. And all of a sudden I was like, man, I'm feeling so vital in my life, much more vital than my work. And I was like, well, I'm glad it goes that way, than the opposite. But I was like, I'd like to do some work that challenges the vitality I'm feeling in my life. That work was not coming my way. So because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, I had just decided to stop doing what I had been doing. And as you see in the book, it took about 2 years to sort of unbrand and all of a sudden be a new good idea for those dramas I wanted to do.
Well, one of the things that you talked about too is how much money you actually walked away from. And so, look, a lot of guys are in the same boat. I was in the same boat years ago. I was doing a financial planning practice. It was going well. I was having success. I was helping people. And I remember taking a phone call from a client. It came up on the phone and I'm like, damn, I don't want to answer this call right now.
Right.
And it wasn't the work and it wasn't the client. I should say it wasn't the client individually. It was the work that I just was like, I'm done. I'm out.
What'd you do when because I had that exact same moment when I had a production company and I had 5 employees, had an office in Venice, and I'm at home and the phone rang and their number came up and I knew it was from the office and I went to pick up the phone and my hand paused. And I looked at my hand, I said, what are you doing pausing to pick up the damn phone call from your own office that you pay the salaries, that you pay the rent? And I was like, I let it ring. And as soon as it quit ringing, I picked up the phone and called my lawyer and said, no more production company, letting everything go, man. Because I was like, what? That makes no sense. I was like, what'd you do after that call?
I had a talk. I remember I had a real heart-to-heart with my wife. And I said, hon, I'm not in this thing anymore. I had already started what I'm doing here now, but it wasn't full time. And I had a real heart-to-heart. And over the course of, I would say 6 months or so, phased out of that business, sold my financial planning practice and ramped this thing up and went full time with this, what we're doing now.
I heard. So that was a big gamble.
Yeah, it was a big gamble, but you said it when you talked about it in the book. You've been into gambling, but gambling and investing in yourself, right? That's the biggest gamble you can take, and the one that's going to pay off the most.
And the one that if it works, you can look in the mirror and go, "Good job."
Yes.
If it doesn't work, you can look in the mirror and go, "Bogey." It's the knowing, it's the not knowing. When we start investing in so many other things that are like, we start these little campfires out there and have a trust in other people to get it done the right way, or, we're not quite sure. We over leverage ourselves. You don't know where the cracks are. You don't know where the cracks and transitions, things will get done exactly how you want to be. And you go to bed not knowing. It's the not knowing that'll keep me up at night. I'd rather, it's the going, what if I would have had the courage to say, no, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to invest in myself. That it's the not knowing and going, why did that not work? It's part of the reason why I haven't been acting here recently. My last few films, I am very clear on why I did the films. And they were not financial. They were not box office hits. I was very clear and still am clear with why I did the films. I'm very clear with that the experience I had making those films was excellent. Where I've got a blind spot is in the third act of, wait a minute, the movie didn't do well. Was that a marketing problem? Did we come out at the wrong time? That was the stuff that was out of my hands. And then it fumbled, and it didn't see the light of day. That blind spot made me go, damn it. I don't like having that blind spot. I want to have a little more control. No, if it works, yep. If it doesn't, yep. Then I know.
Well, it's a scary thing when you gamble on yourself, but it's also very empowering because let's say it doesn't work out, and it isn't going to work out a lot of the time, at least the way you see it initially. Well, you actually have the power to do something about it. And to me, that's empowering rather than putting it in somebody else's hands.
Dude, there's the buzz, right? There's part of trying to get our 8 seconds on the bull in this rodeo called life right there. I don't always know what the hell I want to do. I got people I work with. I start something and then think I've got it down. The plan doesn't go as well. And I seek counsel, from people who can hopefully tell me the truth or say, oh, you know what? There's actually someone with the title that does what you're looking for. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that person existed. Yes, here they are. And you go, oh, thank you. Or, my wife will nudge me in a way where she'll go, I think you're getting off in the weeds over here. And I'll be like, my first reaction is, no, I'm not. And then I have to look at
Don't tell him my business.
yeah, you're right. Let me get back focused. But I don't. It's a buzz trying to figure out. I love feeling like an underdog. I love it when I'm like, okay, I'm in a pinch here. I'm not sure where to go. This isn't working out exactly how I planned on it working out. Now why? Why? Here we go. That's a fun buzz that I enjoy.
I'm with you. I think a lot of people enjoy that, but I also think a lot of people are so afraid or create excuses. Let's go back to those preconceived notions, because I know what some people listening to this podcast are already going to say about you making pivots in your life and gambling on yourself is in their mind, or even verbally, they're saying, well, that's easy for you to say.
Right.
And then they excuse themselves because they think you have it different, or they're an island, or nobody else has ever experienced what they are currently experiencing.
Right. I hear you. Let's look at this last year and a half with COVID. Am I, and you probably in a privileged position, say, my pantry was full. I didn't have to work today to pay the rent tomorrow. Was that a privileged position? Sure. Do I believe I've earned it? Yeah. But does trying to see the upside of this last year and a half of limbo, of, hey, double down on family where you can. Double down on doing personal inventory because now we're forced to. Does that still applicable to someone who may be out of a job, or maybe whose pantry may not be full? Yes, it is. So I'm not speaking to you from up high going, oh, I have access to something different than you do, or I have access to approaching a hardship situation differently than someone else. It's so no, it's applicable to anyone. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say what you said. People go, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. Well, no, we all got different hardships that are of equivalent natures, no matter where or how successful we are. So the approach and how we look at a hardship or a crisis is universal. That's the one where it's like, I always say this: we're all victims, but do we choose to be victimized? Is where the choice comes in. Which everybody's got that choice at any level, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've all had bad things happen to us. We all have rough upbringings in one form or the other, or had a bad experience. And you can use that as an excuse to self-destruct. I've done that in my life.
I have to.
Or you can use it and say, yeah, that was a shitty situation, or that wasn't ideal, or I wish I would have had it differently, but let me create something different from that. And let me learn from those lessons. I mean, you talk about that with your wild upbringing with your mother and your father and your brothers. It was very interesting because I saw a lot of what you experienced in the parallels of my own childhood and upbringing. Very, very interesting stuff.
How'd you see it in your own upbringing? I mean, a lot of those stories that in the book I talk about my upbringing, people, their hand goes to their mouth in horror.
Yeah.
They go, oh my gosh, you must have needed Matthew so much psychiatric help. They're like, oh my gosh, you poor baby. I mean, I wish you were so happy to get out of that house. No, those were love stories. I don't judge how my mom and dad raised it. If anything, I applaud them. They had different means of going about raising my kids than I have about raising my kids. They had different means about raising us than I do go about raising mine, but I don't judge. I mean, a lot of things worked out well, and there was a lot of genius in how they did it. It's how they knew. We never came away injured. So yeah, was there some pain? Were we hurt? Yeah, but we weren't ever injured.
Sure.
And it was just their style, and it's what they knew. And so I see those as love stories, and I tell those stories that usually have to do with some sort of violence because that's when the love our family had was tested the most. That's when the stereotypical story, you think, oh, this is when it breaks. Oh, this is when the family implodes and blows up. No, not so. It was tested. The iron was tested in the fire, but it was never going to break.
Yeah, I like that. I look at my own experience with my father, and what I used to do is I used to put him up on this pedestal. As an adult, I would put him up on a pedestal. And I would say, he should be this, he should do that, he should perform this way, he should show up this way for me. And it really wasn't until I lost him several years ago that I realized, oh, you know what? He isn't the superhero that I made him out to be. And I thought I couldn't take him down off that. But when I took him down off the pedestal and I said, man, I'm like, when I look in the mirror, it's like I'm looking at my dad, my personality, my beard, the way I look, the way I speak. And I'm like, oh, I'm not perfect. Got it. Neither was he, but I expected him to be. And that was my fault to place that on him. I hear you. There's that, message and messenger. And I had a similar experience after my father passed away, where I immediately saw at the wake when people spoke that the message he had given me that I had taken for Bible. Oh, that's who he is. He's 100%. I have him on that same pedestal. But I was like, oh, he actually wasn't living that out. And the first reaction is F you, right? Yes.
But, it's like meeting your heroes and you go and you meet them. You're like, oh, geez, I wish I wouldn't have met them. They came in way low under the bar. You know what I mean? But that's our own projection. That's on us, as you just said. And I was able to very quickly go, oh, okay. That doesn't mean my dad meant and was hoping for me to live up to those values even more so than he could. He still wanted to teach that message. And I was like, well, all right, bravo on him. He didn't live up to a lot of them. He didn't walk the talk in a lot of things that he taught me. Well, most of the stuff he did, but a lot of stuff I saw gaps, and I was what? But I came, pretty quickly after that was like, all right. Not only do I forgive him, even as it's almost arrogant to say I forgive him. I need to get a more realistic look of who he actually is, and as you said, it becomes a mirror. Well, actually, a more realistic look of who the hell I am.
Right. Yeah, I began to understand. The first time I ever smoked pot was with my dad. He is the one who lit it up and gave it to me. And I remember thinking about that, like, what the hell's wrong with him? Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Right.
And now I look at it and think, oh, he just didn't want me to run around on the streets with whoever smoking pot on the streets. Like, he's like, hey, if you're going to do this, let's do it here in a controlled environment. That's going to sound really foreign to somebody who's never experienced anything like that. But I look at that experience so much differently. And that was an expression, as weird as I know it sounds, an expression of love.
It was an expression of love. And it has its own logic. You know, and is it something that you put out there in the child rearing constitution for how all parents should do? Not necessarily, but in that for your father and for you at that time, that made sense for him being a good father. And risk reward, you could say, hey, thanks, Dad.
I'm really interested in your concepts of rite of passages. You talked about a couple of experiences in your life, one with your father at the bar. And then you talked about having your first child. I think that's very important. And it's something that is increasingly less common in society, is the initiation and rites of passages of our boys.
Yeah, it's something that's on my mind often. Also with the fact that my children have been born into a more affluent situation than I was born into. One of the things that's on my mind a lot is like, do they have enough resistance? Do they have enough? Am I putting them in a position to have to overcome enough things? Are they in a position to they need to get, draw a little blood, get some bruises. It's like, I try to look at it like, it's like, how high of a limb do you let your children climb? Because children aren't afraid of heights until they fall. How high of a limb do you let them climb before you go, hey bud, come on down over here. Check this out. We call our kids in off of limbs too low too often. I think it's like, no, they'll fall from there. There's St. Augustine grass blow. It's gonna hurt. They're gonna bruise, but I don't think we're gonna have to go to the emergency room. Let them climb. Don't because you get them that first time. Remember, they're not afraid of heights. But if they're on that limb, you go, no, get down from there. Get down there. I don't want you to fall. All of a sudden, man, you've just created a threshold for them where they find fear in life sooner than maybe they should, and won't have courage to do things or test themselves out. So what are those limbs? That seems to be an art, I think, of parenting, of what limbs how high do you let them go, and how far out on the limb do you let them go before you say, and then when they're on that one that's too high that you're like, oh, geez, no, man, that's a cement fall and it's 40 feet. This would end badly. You don't go, get down from there. You got to get kind of cool. Like, hey, come here a minute. Because you don't want to stop their confidence, right? Check this out. No, really, it's really cool. Get them down on the ground and be like, all right, I didn't want to let them know they should have been scared, but I wanted them to be safe. I think about it all the time. And I mean, America doesn't have rituals of rites of passage. What do we have? And I mean, you still have, sometimes you get church on Sunday. You still have meals, sit-down meals. But for the most part, it's what? It's Monday Night Football. It's
sports.
NYPD Blue, back when that was a hit show that everyone watches. I don't know that those are rich enough rituals for us to have, for our children to see, that understand initiations and rites of passage. You don't have initiations on the internet. All you got to do is say you're an expert, and you can, quote unquote, be one.
Right.
No, what do you mean? So I had a friend wanted me to marry him. And I said, I'm not a priest. They go, yeah, you can be ordained in 9 minutes online. I was like, I don't think that, I'm not going to say that qualifies. Hang on a second. They're like, no, you can. I was like, well, just because they say I can doesn't mean I really am for my constitution. I mean, you can just up and say, you're telling the facts for whoever you are. Anyone can be an expert if they just say they are. There's no rite of passage there. There's no understanding that, no, you have to work to earn something. And, you it's like that old quote, brain surgeon. You know what I mean? I stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night. Well, no, you're not the guy I want, man. I want the real one that really trained working on my brain. You know what I mean? If it comes to that. Yeah, I fear that. What's your take on it? I fear we don't have enough of it, and that it may not be the healthiest thing for our kids to be prepared to go negotiate life.
I think you're exactly right. You were talking about sports or getting lost in entertainment, and what we tend to do is live vicariously through other people, right? I want to be on that team. You even hear it when people talk about their teams. Hey, we won. You didn't do anything. You didn't contribute. Oh, I was the 12th man. No, you didn't contribute at all. You enjoyed it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you didn't do anything about it. What are you doing with your own life? Or what I also see is guys who are. I have friends. I've been out of high school for 21, almost 22 years. I have friends that still talk about that one football game where we did that one thing and it, didn't pan out the way we wanted to, or it went right. And it's like, man, that was 2 decades ago, bro. What are you doing now?
Turn the page. Yeah. I mean, and it's also a little of that Tom Cruise Days of Thunder. You a good driver? Oh, I've never driven before. What do you mean never driven before? How you know how to drive? Well, watch it on TV.
Right.
Well, hey, hang on a second, yeah, I come from a place in East Texas where, a place where there are still people that I was at school with that are still like your friends living off that state championship or living off of that game where they won district or that run. And I'm all for that, but yeah, I think you gotta turn the page. I mean, and even let's heighten other accomplishments. Let's go further than that. Graduated high school. Bravo. Yes, let's all have our celebration. But hey, what's that mean? GED now? That's not, don't let this be the greatest thing. Okay, you graduated college. Bravo. But stay chomping at the bit. That's not, what's a college education get you now? Not what it used to. Shoot, you win an Oscar. Great. So, okay, but so what? There's not a ta-da moment. And we're kind of sort of on autopilot go to like things where like we get overly pleased with ourselves.
Right.
And we find ourselves living off of that. And then when we don't have that next victory or we don't get to that next stage of accomplishing something, I feel it too. Start to feel insignificant. Like, I need to accomplish something else. Well, or that accomplishment that we've been living off gets so far in the damn rearview mirror that we're the same conversation every night at the bar. And our friends are like, dude, are you still telling the same damn story? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, let's evolve here.
One thing I think society has done in general is also made us complacent and satisfied with our past performance. So, hey, you won an Oscar. Look at you. Look how great you are. And everybody's going to pat you on the back and everybody's going to stroke your ego and tell you how wonderful you are. Or they'll look at me and say, oh, yeah, but look at your podcast. Look how great it is. And we're supposed to be satisfied. For me, I'm like, yeah, all that stuff is true and all that stuff is great. And I'm so grateful that I've had those opportunities and been able to have some successes, as I'm sure you are. But I'm not satisfied with the lesser version of myself. There's still more to be uncovered and still more to be developed.
Bingo. Now, why? My hunch is that logic right there, everybody can purchase that if they look in the mirror and ask themselves. I mean, I always say, like, who better to investigate than ourselves? Who better to chase than our transcendent and better selves? And I think this is part of it. We're such a results oriented people. We're talking about in this exact conversation right here. You achieved that. Live on that. You did it. Ta-da. I mean, geez, retire, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on a minute. That's because we think we landed at a place and we've been told, here's your blue ribbon, here's your gold medal. That's more than most people have done. Hey, man, sit back. We put these little man-made roofs over our head about like, well, that's as good as it can get, right? I mean, I'm going to live off of that. No, I tell this, I'm a believer in Icarus, the Icarus story of Icarus in reverse. Father takes his son, they fly too close to the sun, son don't go too close to the sun claps, the boy flies too close to the sun melts the wax on his wings and he falls to the ocean. I think that what we suffer from as a society is the opposite of that. We think it's getting too hot when it ain't even 50 degrees yet.
Right.
It's like we think we're getting too close when things could be working out. We choke at the proverbial goal line instead of like pulling a Bo Jackson and not only running over the goal line, go through the end zone and up the tunnel, man. The sniper doesn't aim at the target. He aims on the other side of it. So keep aiming on the other side and knowing that you never get there. That's the game. We never get to, it's all the summits are real that we peak, but they're false summits in the thought that that's the summit. Mm-hmm. On the other, once you reach that summit, there's a million more summits.
And you can't see those until you get to that first false summit. You're not even going to be able to see it.
And to think that, we're sometimes tap into the 11th percent of our brain capacity. We get nervous about how ambitious we can be way too early in the game. I mean, we're on our own 15-yard line doing touchdown dances. We're like, man, you get this game. You got a lot more yards to go. Don't hold yourself back here, man.
Yeah, I think we've done a wonderful job at making everything so comfortable. You and me were talking about AC right before we hit record on the thing, and we've got AC and we've got this technology, and I need some food. I don't need to go hunt for it. I just go down to the convenience store and just pick up some Snickers or whatever I want. Yeah. And so we have no relative understanding of hardship. The AC goes out as people's worst day, or the 16-year-old kid messes up your order at McDonald's and you flip out at a kid. And that's the worst part of your day. Yeah. I mean, even in the wake of COVID, it does. But even in the wake of COVID, people are like, oh, I can't go out. It's like, well, first you can go out, but let's say you adhere to that. That's actually not really that bad in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, relativity. All right. And we don't get relatives quick enough. I had people during COVID going, months ago going, we had to go out to Clark's. I mean, we had to go out to the restaurant. I was like, no, hang on. You didn't have to. You chose to. And that was your own choice. But don't act like that was a need for your survival. You wanted to, you desired to, and you did. That's very different than your need for frickin' survival to go to your favorite 5-star restaurant 6 months ago in the middle of COVID. That was your choice. You wanted to. You got cabin fever. You got a little uncomfortable. Your food that you were eating out of your fridge started to taste the same a little after a while. You didn't need to go to Clark's to go eat. You wanted to. That's a different thing. We also don't, we don't know where it comes from. We're not a hunter and gatherer society as much anymore. We don't have to. It is convenient. It's right there. It's right here to Amazon, touch of a finger. Right. Amazon, the whole world, bring it to me like that. Convenience. And convenience is great, but I think we have to notice. Look, what did you remember? What do I remember? The lessons I remember in my life are things that I had to experience or earn them.
Definitely.
The travels that we take, and I stay in some of the finest places in the world. What are the travels that I remember the most? What are the ones that my 12, 11, and 8-year-old kids remember the most? I remember that when we had to hike 13 miles a day through Patagonia and the snowstorm came through. There's the story. That's the ones they remember.
Yes, of
course. They remember when we got lost in Yellowstone and had to work our way out and figured out that's where their eyes light up. They don't remember the silk sheets at the Four Seasons where we stayed at the resort. They had a good time. I'm not against the Four Seasons, but I'm saying the ones they remember, the stories that are told, the ones that light them up when they still remember and talk about them, it's those that had a little bit of resistance to them. You had to figure something out. You had to go chop your wood for your fire. And I'll say this, those trips make me, and I think all of us, appreciate the silk sheets at the Four Seasons a lot more when we go. They help us
feel a lot smoother, don't they?
Amazon, deliver that. Thank you. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you bring up a good point in that we need to fabricate may not be the right word, but we do need to fabricate or manufacture or create these hardships and these experiences, not only so we'll appreciate the good stuff, but remember that we actually have it pretty good, that life is pretty good. You want food, you got it. You want a roof over your head, you got it. You want to get a little warmer, a little cooler, you got it. Easy, all with the touch of a button. Now let's remember, and we're recording this on the back of Memorial Day. Let's remember that there are hundreds of thousands of people who paid the ultimate sacrifice, who went through hardships, storming the beaches of Normandy, hardships you and I can't even fathom. So that we could have this conversation or press that button or get that food at the grocery store.
Yep. And so I could say before we got online, that AC, you can hear it in the background, but if I turn it off, I'm going to get a little shiny and start sweating later in the conversation. Well, great. Yeah. Whoa. big risk there, McConaughey.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? But I mean, you got it's look, America. Let's talk about it. America needs to go to rehab. We don't give a value to sacrifice because we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And people go, well, why would you want to make it hard for yourself when it can be so easy? Well, that's a good question. I'm not talking about making everything harder, but the cocktail at the end of the day tastes better after I put in a damn good days of work. The Saturday out on the lake with the kids, I'm having a better time if I did the best I could in my work week. Mm-hmm. If I went and I grinded. It just we don't respect what we have unless we remember that we gotta work for certain things. America needs a civics class again. You know what I mean? We could really use a civics class. I mean, anyone under 60. I was writing this down last night. It seems like everyone under 60 years old could use a civics course.
Agreed.
In America, we have no sense of how young we are, of the sacrifices that have been made, that were 60-something years from 1776, however many years that is, how young of a country we are. We're still puppies. How short of a time we've been here in the lineage of the dynasties of worlds and continents and countries and dominations through history. We have no concept of it. And, my mom's 90. She's with us. She's from that generation where she's like, hey, well, you better appreciate that you're getting a hot breakfast. She tells my kids, you come walking in here without a smile on your face in the morning for breakfast. No one guarantees you this food right here. My mom, no one guaranteed you that damn sun was going to rise this morning. You got another day. So that's one you better wake up and check that off your list. And my kids are like, whoa, okay, Mom. And I just tell them, I'm like,
that's right. How do you, so besides having your mother there, because that's a valuable asset in that space, how do you, as a man of means and of affluence and notoriety and fame, make sure that you're still instilling that in your children, when I would say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the opportunities may be a little bit more abundant to you than the average individual who doesn't have that same opportunity. So I'm really curious what you do to create that for your kids. I
try, and I hope I think I'm doing as good as well as I can at it. I'm not completely convinced I'm pulling it off as well as I can be, but I'm trying. Son goes to school. This happened a couple years ago. Kid at school. Oh, I bet you live in a big house because your dad's rich and famous. Mm-hmm. Son's kind of like, I said, how'd you feel? He goes, well, I got kind of shy. And I was like, well, yeah, we do live in a nice house. And he goes, but I didn't know what to say after that. I said, okay, number one, someone ever says to you, oh, I bet you got this because you did. Don't ever lower your head. You look them right in the eye. Now, why is your dad rich and famous? Because of the work he did. Because I worked my tail off at my craft to create something, to supply something that was in enough demand that it paid for, it gave us the means to have this house. I studied, I worked. Delayed gratification. This happened when I won the Oscar and got the trophy for Dallas Buyers Club. My kids go, what's the trophy for? And it went off. As fathers, sometimes our kids will ask a question and we know right then, I've got an opportunity for an awesome answer.
Definitely. Definitely.
And I went, do you remember a year ago when we were working in New Orleans and Dad was leaving? You get up in the morning at 7 a.m. Dad was already gone. And he come home and you said he looked like a giraffe because his neck was so skinny. And they're like, yeah, I remember that. I go, the work I was doing every day when I was gone for that month. A year later, yesterday, my peers gave me a trophy for it and said, we deemed that the most excellent work. And they clicked. They got the first concept that, oh, wait a minute. You can work today and get rewarded tomorrow? That it's not like, because they're, children, and most of us feel like it's immediate gratification only. I want mine now. And I want what I can get now. And what I'm doing, I need to result now. We got to take longer investments in ourselves. Again, and play, certain sacrifices will reap larger rewards down the line. And that's hence what I mean by the title of Greenlights. That's those Greenlights we're talking about. The ones, not the battery powered ones. I'm talking about the solar powered ones, man. The ones that are going to keep shining for us further down the line and hopefully shine after we're out of this life. You know, delayed gratification, I think, is something we don't give enough credit to. Adults too. Me as an adult, I don't think we do. I don't think when I say America needs rehab, I think we don't give enough value to a delayed gratification. I think I want it now. I want to win on the scoreboard now, and you can tally up the dead bodies later, as long as I win immediately.
Yeah,
and a lot of times those dead bodies are our own, is what I'm saying.
That's true. That's a good point too. A lot of redefining yourself, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of letting things go in order to make things work for some distant future that may or may not present itself.
Yeah, but believing it, believing in it, trusting in it. It's always a little unknown, but we don't like to project or believe that we can invest now to get it. We don't trust that reward will actually come later, But most of the time it does if we do what we need to do on a daily basis to be as good of a man as we can be, as good of a woman, as good of a parent, as good of a father, as good at our work. Those rewards will come and in larger sizes and with wider and deeper roots than if we take the immediate satisfaction as often as we do.
When you talk about America needing rehab, is this where a lot of your political aspirations and desires come from? Is it this? Is it something else? Is it a culmination of multiple ideas? Tell me where you are with that.
I mean, it's a culmination. So when politics is one embassy in one category where someone can have influence about in service of where the country's going. So when I say we're in need of rehab, we gotta. I think as Americans, we can use some more courage. Individually, I don't know what the policies are that make a big collective change. I do believe that if each one of us, as we're talking here, go look in the mirror and go, I'm calling you out. And I'm talking to me in the mirror. It's on you. It's on me. That's how you make a collective change. But we have to believe we got to flick our own switch. Meaning so many times we get the leader we want in position, and trying to get them in the position. We're out of our chair. We're on the edge of the porch. We're rooting. We're soldiering. And as soon as they get in position of power, we go, okay, now I can go sit back down. No, just the opposite. Now's the time to get off the porch.
It works.
Now's the time to get after it. Now let's go to work. Our knee-jerk reaction is not to do that. And it's going to come, if we keep it up, it'll come at our own demise. And I say rehab, I'm 19, the 21 most great civilized countries didn't get taken over from without. They imploded from within. And I fear, the versions of civil war. I don't think our war. Yeah, we got concerns about China, and we should be, and we got concerns about Iran and places like that. But we need to really start looking right at our feet and see. Do we really, we talk about America, the land of opportunity, and yes, but hey, that's even lagniappe, luxurious talk right now. I think what question we need to ask ourselves right now is, hey, do we really believe in that, and we really want to be a United States of America? Because that's in question right now. And it's been exposed in this last year and a half. It's always been there, but it's really been exposed into a greater scale in this last year and a half, where everything got politicized in some way or another. So much so that I'm like, wait a minute, where'd the common sense going? How did that become a partisan issue? Let's just talk the common sense of the situation. We're a country who can't decide and agree on a fact. We don't know what's actual. We can't agree on what is, and then that does start there. So we're a little bit delusionary right now. And we when we're on our own, each of us as individuals, we too often, me included, bow down to that little whisper of our cowardice sides rather than stand up to the courage.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. How has your life changed since you announced that you had political aspirations? Because I imagine before, you had to deal with critics and people tell you, you're a bad actor. That was a bad role. That was a bad movie, yada, yada, yada. Right. This, I think, is going to be on an entirely different level I could be wrong, but I imagine from the outside looking in, that's what it's going to be.
Well, all I've done is said that I was considering, giving honorable consideration, right? Which I have been and am. How's it changed? Different people reached out. More people kind of for the first time, gotta get a security guard, man. Damn it. Strangers are showing up at the house in a fever pitch about this has got to happen. Really? Yeah.
For the first time?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, before, you'd have a certain fan show up, right, or late night kids, high schoolers on the weekend, get drunk, let's go swing by McConaughey's house, have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now people are coming with an extreme agenda and going, you got to do this. This is the guy. And so, wow. Or coming and going, or coming and being mad. You shouldn't have said that. Why'd you say that? I disagree. But I'm not in quote unquote politics right now in my life. I'm I'm speaking my own truth and saying, hey, I'll deal with the consequences. But there's more eyes on me and my family in different ways. The eyes are more intense on me and my family in different ways than they were before.
Yeah, I imagine that's the case. But that also is where that courage comes into play, which you were just talking about earlier, is, hey, you see a problem, you step up and fix it. And I think just based on the story that I read in your life, that's what your parents instilled in you is, hey, we're going to deal with this head on. In fact, I love the story, and I'm not going to ruin the story. You guys go listen to the book or read it. But the story of your initiation, I'll call it, into manhood by your father, where you actually had to step up and address and deal with an issue head on. And that's where you became, I think I would say, an equal. Is that what you would consider it? An equal with him?
I became his peer. All of a sudden, from that day forward, let's go get a beer. For the first time, he was still my dad, but now I was like, come on, buddy, let's go get a beer. Proverbial beer. Let's go hang out and shoot the shit as buddies for the first time. Instead of, no, I'm your father, you're my son. I was in on the stories. For the first time now, I was able to go with him and his friends and experience the stories and be in on telling of the stories the next day. Whereas before that time, I was always the one who would hear the story about last night the next day, instead of being there to witness it and be a part of it.
What's your take now that you're a father yourself, looking back into how your father fathered you? And you said something interesting. You said, I'm your father versus I'm your peer or your friend. How do you describe the relationship that you have with your kids? Because I look at it and think, I'm never stepping off the mantle of fatherhood to a lower tier of friend. And people get after me when I say that. We can be friendly, but I'm not my son or my daughter's friend. But what I heard you say in your story, I was like, that's an interesting perspective. And it made me reflect on that a little bit.
But it was a time. And as you know, you got 4 kids. Mine are 12, 11, and 8. I'm just getting to that stage where up until now, it's been like, look, there's one rule across the board for all 3 of you kids. Follow them. Everyone gets the same consequences for following them, the same consequences for not following them. Now, I'm seeing how they're different individuals. They got different characteristics. I told them the other day, I will treat you all fairly, but I'm not going to treat you all the same. I got an elder son who is so damn responsible. He self-motivates, self-regulates everything. Man, he's the one that I don't need to be getting on him like I get on my youngest son for not doing something. Because my youngest son will look at the chore and go, I'm not going to do it and see if I can get away with it. I'm not doing that. My eldest son, never, if he messes up, he didn't mean to. So he may need an arm around the shoulder going, hey, buddy, we forgot that one. It's okay. Youngest one doesn't do the same thing. He's going to get a consequence because I know he was intentional about it. He ain't time for me to be buddy with you, buddy. You're trying to see what you can get away with and pull off on Pop and not play by the team rules of the household. Different. You know what I mean? Daughter, different. Youngest son craves the attention of, hey, what are you doing? Daughter, if I raise my voice even to that level, she's like, so Nick got to do it differently. You know what I mean? You find different ways to customize when to be a buddy or when to actually have tried this recently. When you give a discipliner trying to course correct him. Doing it with an arm around him. Not as your buddy, but as your loving father, letting you know that this is, no, we tell him all the time, there are times when we're not going to like you and what you did, but we're always going to love you. That's not in question. But too many of us, too many parents, and for my money, that's their goal. I want to be best friends with my kids. And I think it's a major disservice to the children. And it also can become a bit of a cop-out because, as you know, saying no and following through on rules in the house and following through on no's is a hell of a lot harder than saying yes. It's a hell of a lot harder, man. It's easy. And sometimes, late at night, you're like, oh, just let him do it. I'm so tired. Just let him. Man, it's hard to sit there and go, okay, I got to go handle this the right way as a father. Dang it.
Right.
Or it's going to be a slippery slope. It's going to be harder. I'm doing them a disservice if I let this slide.
I think that's one trap a lot of parents fall into, and I've fallen into that. I'm sure you have as well. We say, "Hey, I'm letting my children do that because it's good for them, or it's okay. It's not that big a deal." But I think really more often than not, we allow them to get away with some of the stuff we'd otherwise correct because we're trying to preserve ourselves, not necessarily trying to serve them.
Yeah, shit, and it's understandable. Shit,
of course.
Man. I mean, hell, if you 100% follow through on every single thing every day, you look up and find yourself saying hi to your wife for the first time at 10 p.m. each night. Right. I mean, sometimes you got to go, hey, this is my time. Y'all deal with it. All right. You know what I mean? I said clean up. We'll see tomorrow if it's cleaned up. You know what I mean? But I'm telling y'all, you know what to do. Good night.
Yes.
I'm going to have some time with my wife, my friend. But it's tough duty, man. And then to be, as I said, how are you consistent, but at the same time treat everyone fairly, but treat them the same because they have different personalities and wants. It's a constant art, I believe. And then it's about to be a whole new art because mine are about to be in teenagers, and that's a whole nother thing with hormones and questions. And I'm finding my son asking questions and going through things in his head at 12 that I was going through at 15, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
15, I didn't even consider that. So I've got to get on the fast track as well of what my expectations are and actually get rid of some of my expectations about where I was, or even update how my parents raised me. I think our parents want us to go, I want you to be a better version.
Right.
Than I was. And I think we want that. I want that for my kids. I want them to be a better version, a more true version, and even more customized version of what I'm showing them to be and what life's about and what we expect from each other and what we expect from ourselves and how we respect ourselves and respect each other. It's a constant update, but saying no is a hell of a lot harder. It takes up a hell of a lot more time to follow through on the no's, man.
That's true. And you have to follow through because if you don't, then you're just lying. And that obviously isn't going to serve anybody.
And they don't want that. I think that, I learned this with our foundation. Camille and I have an after-school foundation in Title I schools. It's about nutrition goals, physical fitness goals. And then I came up with the idea about, hey, they need to do community service. And I was like, ooh, they ain't going to like that. We've been giving them a free place after school. They got exercise equipment. They said, go. I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. 100% of them loved it. 4:30 a.m. every weekend, 100% capacity on the buses to make things for the troops to send off. And I was asking, I was like, why is 100% of you, a lot of them say their favorite thing about the whole program is the community service, because it gave them ownership. It didn't mean that the curriculum was it wasn't a one-way ticket. It wasn't a free ticket. They wanted to be put to task. They wanted to be given a responsibility.
Yes.
To give them ownership and identity. And so a lot of them, it's their favorite thing about the whole curriculum, but it's the work they got to do that we're telling them, no, this ain't a freebie. You got to give back if you want to stay if you want to roll with this crew. And they love it. So they didn't want to be given everything. They wanted to be put to task. And it gave them identity and gave them ownership, and they stood taller and they did something and they accomplished something, and it was an exchange. And I think people want that, and especially children want that more than we like to give them credit for.
Yeah, I think they want meaning. I think they want to be treated like adults too, whether they are or aren't. I think they want to be treated with some level of respect, and giving them responsibility and consequences is a level of, hey, you want to act like adult, you want to be an adult. I'll play that game with you. Let's do that a little bit. And they thrive on it.
We had, you do this when you and your wife are having a conversation and your kids eavesdrop. Maybe they're in the kitchen and you're on the couch.
They have like supersonic hearing, man. I don't know how they hear some of this stuff.
But when they come and bring it up of something they overheard, not that they were being secret about, but that you allowed them to overhear, and they don't understand that that's one conversation, one piece of the whole context of a decision you got to make. Mm-hmm. And they get locked into, well, here's my opinion, here's why I agree with mama, but not you, dad, whatever that is. You got to go, hang on a second. You got to understand that you weren't privy to a whole lot of other conversations that me and mom have been having for months about this and are going to continue about. So you don't have enough information, buddy, to come in and be judge and jury on this situation. Now, if you can listen to a conversation and sit back and go, okay, that's a piece of the puzzle, but I understand there's a lot more going on, then it's okay for you to listen to us. But if you're going to lock in and get literal on your decision just based off of what you heard in one conversation, then you're not old enough to sit around and mature enough to sit around and overhear mom and dad talk. So figure it out. Either, leave the room and let us have a private conversation, or come in and have a listen, and don't go to judgment and try to sell your side when you don't have all the information.
That's you're talking about it in the context of parents and their children, but I think we could talk to people about that on social media. People would jump in and say, "Oh, well, you said it earlier. You said one thing," and people go off the rails. You're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! What about the 47 other things I said on the same subject that you conveniently forgot to bring up or mention that are counter to what I just said in that little 5-word snippet you clipped out?"
Everyone's an editor. You know what I mean? Right. And we've got a means of communicating now that is broken down into a Twitter world, which 40 words or less, whatever it is. It's so you got it. It's a headline. You look at, everyone's looking for that headline that is not necessarily that causes you to go, oh, there's a car crash here. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a disease here. Oh, there's a problem here. Oh, there's a fire here. Why? Because you get more clicks. And if you get more clicks, you get more dough, moolah. So that's the deal. The truth, forget that. Oh, you know what I mean? I mean, look at our media now. They, in my opinion, they have us. They have Americans believing. They have us believing we're actually more disconnected than I believe we are. And I think we're all drinking the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. Why do we listen to them? Well, because they're having these dramatic, pep rallies on the tree right and left. And it's sexy, but it's a car wreck. Hell, the health. You want to talk about how we're alike and how we can get along? That's boring. Show me the car. Why do we rubberneck? Why do you get on the 101 in LA going north and slow down to 5 miles an hour, only 10 minutes later to find out it's because of a wreck of on the southbound side? Right. Because we love to have a look at the problem. Is there going to be a fire? Am I going to see a dead body? Ooh. No, dude, just keep driving. Stay in your lane at 65, bro. It's just
and everybody says that. Oh, if only these people keep going, and yeah, we look the same as everybody else.
Guilty, But to name it and claim it that we do it. I think we're all getting a little bit hoodwinked right now, and we're drinking the proverbial Kool-Aid. To think that we're as divided actually as we are. I think that most of us have a common denominator of values in the middle, no matter what church we go to or what political aisle we're voting on, that we're just having the shade pulled over our eyes to see that. But I believe we're in the majority.
Yeah, definitely agree. Well, look, that
doesn't sell tickets, though. The other stuff sells tickets.
That's right. Look, I know you've got a hard stop here in the next several minutes. I want to be very respectful of that. I do want to ask one thing that I was very intrigued with as I was listening to your book. You said, and you actually said it when we started this conversation, that you felt like a man and more masculine than you ever had when you had your first child. Can you talk to me about that?
Yep. So one thing, the only thing I ever knew I wanted to be in life was a dad. But then I have a child. All of a sudden, I realized I was immortal. Oh my God, just did it. Passed on the lineage, bloodline. All of a sudden I was not living for the present. I was living for the future. All of a sudden, mortal things that I looked around at that maybe I was slightly intimidated by or didn't have the courage to embrace. Even my career had been like number one on my goal. That's what I want. That's my number one goal, to get my identity from. Well, then I have a child. No, career went to number two, at least kind of down to number three. And because that gave me less fear about anything to do with my career, I got better at my career because it went to the 3 hole instead of the 1 hole.
Right.
I didn't lose any respect for it. I just lost a certain reverence that had me maybe more impressed with it than I was involved with it. Well, boy, you have a child. You see, I think a man's head, heart, and loins and spirit are more aligned at that point, and he's courageous to see clearly enough to go forward for those reasons. Oh, now I'm immortal. Okay, well, let's get it on. let's take the real risk. And I got a hell of a lot more courageous with myself, with others, with chances I would take, because now I was a courier. And like I said, now I was immortal. Every parent becomes immortal when they have children, and hopefully, our children may have children and pass it on. And I was like, there's the greatest light I can leave. There's my legacy. That's the greatest legacy I can have, is my firstborn son. And then it's turned to our children. That's the greatest legacy we can leave. Greatest example. You want to know somebody? Go meet their kids. Hang out with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. After we're gone, they're the ones that are passing our stories on. They're the ones that are emanations and extensions of us. That's as awesome of a thing that I can think of. They're living emanations. They're not a book. They're not a movie. They're not a piece of art. They're not a podcast. They're like a living emanation, extension of us. And how did we shepherd them? How's this great, awesome opportunity we get to shepherd who they become to head out into life on their own? That is just, talk about a buzz. That just gets me off.
Oh, no doubt. That's powerful stuff, man. Well, look, I appreciate you. I'm so glad that I wasn't so stubborn to completely write off your book. I'm so glad that I listened to it, that I got a copy, that enough people said, no, you got to read it. You got to listen to it. And honored to be able to have this conversation. You shared a ton of valuable insight, and I'm honored that you could join us. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
I quite enjoyed it, man. I look forward to the next time, man. And
thanks, brother. Let's run it back soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All right, later.